Hello. Hello, everybody. We are the Poly Pimps. Good evening, Sky. Good evening,
Hey,
Chris.
what's good? He dropped off,
Oh,
ran.
okay.
Sometimes people can't hang, you know what I'm saying?
He's coming back.
So,
What's going on, girl? Happy birthday. Woo,
yay!
woo, woo.
I love my birthday. It's my favorite holiday.
So it's Pisces season. Is that right?
No,
Oh,
no. It's Aries.
Aries. I'm sorry.
You
But it was
have
Pisces
you
before
have to
you, right?
remember this crucial information. We are Aries time. So
All right.
There we go. Now
Welcome
we
back,
thought you
Chris.
ran. We thought you ran away. Do you have some more light on the front of you?
I can. Hold on a second.
Oh, I guess some people want to see the face of the Lord tonight.
How's that?
That's better. All right.
Okay. Technical.
Welcome, everybody, to the Poly Pimps on this Thursday evening. Welcome to season 3. Can you believe it? We're going on the third year. This is amazing. It's been a great ride, and I am enjoying it. So thank you, everyone who constantly support us. And thank you to those of you who watch, those of you who watch later. We thank you. Don't forget to like our pages and subscribe on YouTube. Um,
Yay.
and tonight we are celebrating Sky's birthday as well. She's been celebrating her whole season. Well, she just started celebrating.
Oh
So
yes.
happy birthday, Sky.
We go straight into April. The whole Aries month.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I have a cough tonight. So I guess I won't be doing a
That
whole lot.
pollen action. That pollen is pollinating.
Yes. And so we're gonna because I feel like we're gonna have so many questions tonight. We cannot waste time. We are well, my name is Me Too, as some of you know. I am one half of the Poly Pimps, and we have been at this for going on 3 years now, and we are happy to bring you different topics, whether it is polyamory related or not, because we're all living on this earth, so everything technically concerns us. So welcome and thank you.
Yay. I'm Sky, otherwise known as Sky Juice. And I'm happy to be here. This is a very interesting topic to me as well. I've always been fascinated about the law as it pertains to humanity in general. So I'm excited to have an actual attorney here, Mr. Chris Adams. Is that what you go by?
That's it. It's only Christopher if my mother is upset with me.
Okay.
And
You,
I get to call him a special name too, but I can't say it online. So
TMI, TMI.
you just
So
don't know.
the website says bigdoglaw.com. I love that.
That's it. It's not difficult to guess where I did my undergraduate and law school studies.
Mm. Gotcha. University of Georgia. Is that what that is?
That's it.
All right,
Absolutely.
so we're gonna let Chris introduce himself and tell us a little bit about him and what he does and how this pertains to us tonight.
Um, Chris Adams. I have been practicing law for over 33 years. So it's something that in that time period, I've been able to hopefully gain a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of knowledge that I didn't have whenever I walked out of law school. But uh, happy to be here this evening, answer any questions that you may have. This is a developing area of law. It's something that we're seeing more and more in our domestic family law cases, but there's a variety of issues that pop up that have nothing to do with divorce or child custody or things of that nature. A lot of what is changing right now, and it's unanswered for the most part, are how does being in this type of relationship impact me as far as benefits? Hey, do I get domestic partner benefits from this person's job? Do I get to inherit from them if they were to pass away? Do I get to visit them in the hospital? I mean, there's just any of the number of these subjects right now that are flying around and
Have come up.
what the answer is really in many aspects depends on what part of the country that you happen to live in. There could even be zoning issues. All right, we've zoned this particular area for single families. Well, what does that mean whenever you might be involved in this kind of relationship? Perhaps there's 3 of us, 4 of us, 5 of us. Am I then violating some kind of zoning ordinance because we don't fit into the traditional definition of family? So these are all things that the world is moving faster than the law is able to keep up. So
That's right.
That would be if we're starting from some point here, and where do we start talking on this relationship issue this evening? I'd say that that's one of the areas to start from.
That was one of my questions for sure, is what happens to a family of more than 2 adults in regards to home ownership and property and et cetera, like that? What have you seen, or what are the laws that protect them?
Well, the first thing that the court's going to look for is one of the persons in this relationship actually married to somebody else in the relationship. You may have 3, 4 individuals that are all involved in this relationship together, but for purposes of polygamy, you can't be married to more than one person.
Right.
But you are equally involved with all of them. Well, the law is only set up to recognize the person that you're married to. It's not set up to look at other people who may be in your relationship. And if you're not married to any of them, then it's not going to provide a lot of the protections that we would otherwise have for married couples.
So there's a workaround that polyamorous people do. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I have read about and seen it online, where they say it's a group family of 4 adults, 3, 4, 5 adults, whatever the number is. They create an entity in the form of like a nonprofit organization and call it like the family, or incorporated, or they create an entity in the form of a legally binding organization, and they put in their bylaws, what have you, some of their guidelines on what it means, I guess. And they are using that as the workaround to create a unified group of people who are together and who have protections as a unit in terms of getting healthcare as a group. So almost like putting healthcare for a business, so that everyone can have health insurance, protections for death and medical and different situations. Are you familiar with that, or does that make sense to you, or what do you know about?
Familiar with it, and it makes perfect sense, but I think a lot of that depends on part of the country that you happen to live in. You're going to have a dickens of a time showing up to visit someone at the hospital that you're not their spouse, and you're trying to explain to them, well, we formed this LLC.
Got it.
And so that's just another one of those examples of how society is moving much faster than the law can keep up.
Gotcha. So could this particular LLC or organization or what have you, if that was the way they went, could they create legal documentation like affidavits or what have you that, you know, in the case of someone being in the hospital or what have you, they bring this document that's, you know, signed by whomever, authorizing them the ability to go into a hospital room or what have you, if the case may be? Is that something that can be done?
So basically, you're asking if there are any legal pathways for the multiple partners to establish mutual rights.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure he will be back. Hey, y'all, what's going on?
How do they make it work in Utah? That's a good question.
Hey, from Athens.
Sorry
Hey,
about that.
Ashley. No, you're fine. Hey, Mimi. Hey, LaDon. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so basically she was asking if there are some legal pathways for multiple partner families to have rights.
Well, you can't necessarily create something that the law isn't going to otherwise recognize. You have to understand that all these laws that have been set up date back to English common law. It's always to try and prop up the more traditional relationship, husband, wife, children. But society has moved in a direction, again, much faster than the law was able to keep up with. And so, despite how much you would like for people to recognize something, hey, we've created this entity, that doesn't necessarily mean that anyone is going to be obligated to do that. Now, there are many other locations that have passed ordinances, statutes, things of that nature to say, hey, we're going to really take a much stronger approach of recognizing these kinds of relationships and the dynamics that all these people have together. But you may be in a completely different part of the country that says, no, we're not recognizing that at all. So these are the challenges that you're going to have.
So as it pertains to Georgia, what do you think? How do you think that would fly?
Georgia, for the most part, is going to recognize more traditional marriages, but then they're also going to recognize things such as domestic partners. But for most domestic partner relationships under Georgia law, you're looking at one person. Could be the same sex, but you're still generally looking at one person. And
Right.
they're going to have a very difficult time adding anybody else to that. So that's why I said it depends on where in the country that you live, because you may live in an area that's much more progressive, and they say, no, we're so long, we have common interests that we all share together. Then they'll say, list out the people that you want to have as domestic partners in your relationship. And they're fine with that. But other parts of the country say, no, we're only recognizing that one person.
Okay.
When the Supreme Court recognized gay marriage, they didn't say you may have a relationship with as many people as you want. They said, we're going to recognize that people of the same sex can get married. But even with that, it's still an exclusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are issues.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked, how do they make it work in Utah?
Well, so there goes your polygamy versus polyamory
Hmm.
argument. Okay. Hey, what's the difference here? Well, with polygamy, you're saying, can we be married to more than one person? And the law has been very clear on that since, well, I'd say the late 1800s. No, we're not going to recognize that people have the right to marry more than one person. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. But a lot of times what happens, I'm not going to throw Utah under the bus, but let's just say that you happen to live in such a place where traditionally that was accepted. I think what you're going to see there is while two people may very well be married to each other, they have other, what we'll call sister wives or those kinds of things, you see on TV. But the state of Utah, for instance, has been very lax in prosecuting anything like that because there is no formal declaration that these two got married to more than one person. They just happen to be in a relationship with more than one person. But then the other issues that I was telling you about pop up. Well, okay, what happens if we have a child together and you pass away? Does my child get to inherit from you? These are all issues that everybody needs to keep their eyes wide open and say, if you're going to engage in lifestyles that aren't issues that pop up.
We kind of miss out on some of the stuff you're saying. I think your connection it's like in and out, but we kind of get the gist of it.
You said the last thing you said was if you're going to engage in relationships that like alternative, then what was the last? How did you finish that? I think
You have to get married to one person. If you're having relationships in other families with other people that you're not technically married to, while Utah may not be prosecuting people for having these kinds of relationships, it still doesn't mean that the law is clear on what happens if someone dies without a will. Can this other family inherit from this person? There's all kinds of things like that pop up, even in a place like that.
Are there any ways that the non-monogamous partners can ensure that they are included in wills, inheritance, medical decisions? Like,
Sure,
how do they do that?
sure. Draft a will. It's not a
Okay.
requirement that the person is your spouse or that they're even related to you. So long as you include these people in your will, they're covered. But the second that you say, oh, I'm just not going to bother with that, and you happen to die what we call intestate, meaning without a will, well, now you've got some complications for this extended family.
So what about with the whole debacle with children? How does that? Oh, me too. Am I okay to keep asking?
No, yeah, you're good.
Okay. So I've heard horror stories where someone has children with somebody and they find out that their former partner is now involved in that poly thing, and so they want to torment the other parent for having multiple relationships around their children, as it just pertains to like divorce and just even exes or whatever types of relationships they are. Have you seen or have you witnessed or experienced any type of relationships where, situations where children are involved and it becomes like a mess and they're like, they're saying all kinds of negative things about the other parent?
Well, whether you are in a relationship with one person that you're not married to, or you're engaged in a relationship with multiple people that you're not married to, the issue isn't how many partners do you have with regards to children. The issue is, are you exposing children to something that's inappropriate? Let's just say that you're having a relationship with one person, not multiple, but you're not married to that person. And you are exposing the child to the two of you having relations with each other. No judge is going to say that that's okay. They don't want kids seeing married parents. All right. So then it's a step worse with most judges if you're unmarried and your child is witnessing all of this. So I think that's the bigger issue is, what are you exposing the kids to, not how many partners do you have. As long as the children aren't exposed to it, I don't think that you're in any danger of losing custody or anything like that at all.
Got it.
That was a great question, Sky, because I know some people like that. So I guess at this point, I'm like, well, this question I probably don't even need to ask, because I was going to ask, are there any tax benefits or disadvantages for polyamorous households?
Yes, I think that that's one of those issues we circle back to, and I say the law is going to try and recognize one domestic partner or one spouse. It's just not well set up for most of the country. You're going to have, again, some pockets around the country where they are saying, no, we are going to recognize this. But even with that, you're going to have to share this common address and things of that nature. Well, let's say that your relationship is a little less formal and you've got partners that come and go from the relationship. Okay. Well, we're not wanting to recognize them for domestic partner benefits the same way that we would 3-4 people that truly are really committed to each other. It's different. And so you've got to recognize, hey, what kind of these relationships are we in? Is this more formal or is it less formal?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think at the very beginning, I mentioned something on
you just broke up again. What was that?
Do we run into problems at work if they find out? Do we run into problems at work if people find that you're engaged in some kind of a alternative relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that depends on where are you working. If you are working at, yes, it has to. What if you're working at a church? All right. You're
at a church?
To have to live. Sure. You have to live by the rules of your employer. That's what the courts have commonly recognized whenever you're employed by some religious organization. But if you're not, the court may very well look at that and say, it just doesn't matter. This is not it's not one of the job requirements of you working here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, because I've heard some people losing their jobs over their relationship styles and dynamics. So I've always been curious, about that, because some people, they cannot disclose openly that they are non-monogamous because of their career, their jobs. I mean, I guess whenever you come out, there's always a risk that some people will exit out of your life just because of your relationship style. It may go against their morals. And also somebody could probably report you to work if they know where you're working and they think that your employee, especially let's say you work for a smaller company and those people are very conservative, or they're just like, what do you call that? Yeah, conservative is the word I'm going to use. Traditional. So they could probably report you and you lose your job. I don't know anybody personally that has lost employment over that, but I have heard stories online where people had to hide who they were or how they lived based on where they worked.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that will depend on the size of the business as well. The federal government holds larger corporations to different standards than they might some mom and pop type operation. And we have to recognize, hey, if we're only talking 4 employees here, that's different than somebody that employs 100,000 employees. So that issue pops up.
So the people, I guess, who bring in the more money may get a pass because there's more money there.
I don't think that's necessarily the issue, but okay.
Okay.
So, what are some of your experiences in this field as it pertains to polyamorous and non-monogamous relationships? Like, what types of legal issues are they having besides, family and work? Are there other things that come up?
I've seen ex-spouses try to claim to a court judge, say, hey, this person is involved in this kind of relationship, and that should make them ineligible to parent children.
Okay.
But I don't think that generally our judges see it that way. Again, I think it comes back down to what did you expose the children to? And it's either appropriate or it's inappropriate. It doesn't matter if it's a 2-person relationship, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's did you expose them to something that you shouldn't have? I think that's
Is that the majority of situations that come up for you in terms of legalities?
Sure. But whenever I had that issue raised in a custody case that I was counsel on, that's the thing that we always kept circling back to is whether or not my client is engaged in this kind of relationship. We're talking about what's in the best interest of the children. And if the children haven't been exposed to anything inappropriate, then it really doesn't matter too much to most courts. This individual has what they do behind closed doors in their bedroom and who they do it with.
Doesn't matter. What is your are you a family law attorney?
Yeah, it's probably about half of our practice.
Okay. It's family law. Okay. What's the other half?
It may
When
be
you get in trouble.
Criminal?
Criminal is first thing.
When I get tickets, that's who I call.
Okay.
Contract litigation, things of that nature.
Okay.
I do a lot of litigation work. I am the attorney that typically goes to court almost every day.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay.
You probably would want to watch them in a courtroom. It's a whole show.
Well, with a website like Big Dog, I'm sure there's some backing on that. You know what I mean?
The one thing I'm gonna say, I would not want to
avatar for a university.
I would not want to be on the opposite side of this bit right here. That's all I'm gonna say because yeah, I've watched them in action and it's kind of like TV actually. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you find it hard to believe or see that anything is going to change in the nearest future or even at all as it pertains to laws and multiple relationships, etc. But I just see that it is becoming much more popular, number one. Number two, I also see monogamous marriage to be like the biggest failure of the history of the last 100 years. And it just seems like we still promote marriage as being like the biggest thing you do in your life is choosing a spouse and all this stuff. But yet and still divorce is so high. It's like most of the time, I mean, they say it's at like 60% or, and it's growing, but then you have this other 30 to 40% of people who stay married. And of that percentage, how many people are actually happily married? And so many people stay married for so much longer than they really should. So with that being said, it's like, why isn't more opportunities for whatever it looks like for people to be happy, to stay in families, to create whatever it looks like legally? Like that to me should be where society should start looking at, because this whole forcing people to stay married or get married because that's the thing to do, it's not working, and it's like this fantasy that people keep jumping into. And marriages are not even lasting 5 years. Like nowadays, like if you pass 5 years, that is like a huge celebration, because people know that the first 5 years is like a make or break, you know what I mean? And so, yeah. So what could you speak to that whole part with the whole marriage thing? Like, multiple partners may seem like foreign, but one partner is not even viable in reality.
Okay, so let's say that society has changed at a pace where this kind of relationship is okay. Who is going to be the legislator in your state that says, give the flag to me, I will run with it, and I will propose that we change the law in this state to reflect much more on a policy relationship?
I don't know if anybody's going to stand up and say that. Sorry? Say that again?
When you say, hey, how are...
I think you froze, Chris.
So yes. What I would think is, if you have to get married, I believe you're supposed to get a license, right, to get married. But when you have to get a driver's license, I think they give you 6 years, and then it expires, and you got to go get another driver's license. So I'm wondering, how come marriage licenses don't expire after 5 years or what have you, and let people go back and either get remarried or just get another license or what have you, so that they can check in with each other and be like, is this working? Are you good here? And that way they can like stay married for as long as you want to. Like this whole till death do us part, it's not a thing.
Yeah, I think he froze.
I'm still here.
Okay, good.
Hold on, because I think he was in the middle of talking.
Okay.
It's a frustrating thing for folks that are involved in this kind of relationship to say, hey, why doesn't the law recognize the popularity of this more, especially given that our divorce rates are at an all-time high? Well, again, who is going to be the legislator that says, I will write up this new act and I will take this before the state legislature and ask everyone to vote on it? While that plays particularly well, again, in progressive areas of the state, it does not play well in more rural areas of the state. And so you're much more likely to get like that passed on a local level, where you have more of a county ordinance or you have a city ordinance, and you have much more of an opportunity. But on a statewide level, I just don't see it changing. And I think the best example there are tons of cities in California that are much more accepting
liberal
of these kinds of things. Right. But has the state of California change the law in that state? No. Even there, nobody wants to be the one that says, let's change the law.
You're right. Because, yeah,
And
California.
I'm not taking a position one way or the other. I'm just saying, from
Right.
an attorney's point of view, here's where we are. This is the reality that we live in.
Right. I mean, hopefully at some point things can change. I feel like there's definitely hope. I may not see it. My children may not see it because, I mean, nobody thought that gay marriage would be legal at some point in life, although it's in jeopardy. But we probably 100 years ago, I don't think we could have imagined that that would be a thing. So hopefully at some point in the future, there is the room to grow in that area. So we do have a couple of questions. Maggie said, I believe you mentioned that it's not necessarily who and how many people a child is exposed to that can be problematic, but what they are exposed to that may be inappropriate. Okay. She was just making
Yes,
a statement.
that was a comment.
What are some examples of inappropriate activities or behaviors that they would consider not in the best interest of the children?
If children are being exposed to folks, again, having marital relations in such an open and notorious way that the children can see it and hear it, that's not going to be smiled upon. That's going to be something that a judge is not going to take very well. But again, that doesn't matter whether you're involved in a monogamous relationship. If you're doing this in the presence of children, court's not going to like it. Or if you've got 10 partners, court's not going to like it as long as the children are seeing those kinds of acts.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Well, we have the link in the chat if you guys want to come on and ask some questions. But also, we are going to add Chris's website for when you guys get in trouble, because I know a lot of you out there are troublemakers. So you got an attorney now that will definitely make sure, well, depending on the kind of trouble you get into, but he's gonna make sure you get the least amount of punishment, should I say. And I'm not talking about that kind of punishment, so please just legal punishment.
As I usually point out to folks, I represent the rights of the wrongfully accused.
Okay.
I love that. I don't think I've
That's
ever
all of
heard
us.
you say that.
That's all of us.
Yes.
So as it pertains to polyamory, how does the law define that, or does it?
No, I don't know of any statute in the state of Georgia that says, here's how we will define that term. They'll define what polygamy is, but
but polygamy and polyamory are like, polygamy is under polyamory, yes?
The difference there is that with polygamy, you're actually going through the trouble to get married to more than one person.
Mm-hmm.
Polyamory is much more fluid.
Yeah, it is. So with polygamy now, legally in the United States, you can only get married to one person. So it's only the first spouse that's going to be recognized. The only legal spouse is the one that's going to be recognized.
Correct.
So even if they have their spiritual unions or their other wedding ceremonies or what have you, there's nothing else in writing. There's nothing else legally connected, just the two first people that got married.
Correct. But if you're, again, worried about inheritance, you could draw up a will that includes every single person involved in this multi-person relationship. But you have to actually commit to putting them in the will. But again, even there, remember the topic I was talking about earlier, some people come and go from these kinds of relationships. They're very informal.
Yes.
But then you may have others that are really committed to each other. There's just more than two of you.
Right.
So that's probably the kind of person that you want to put in your will, and not the person that has been in a more casual relationship with you for a few weeks.
That part. The lifelong folks.
Right.
So I'm going to ask one question before I shift it, because although we're talking about non-monogamy for the most part, but I also wanted to touch on monogamous marriages too, because even though we're with the poly pimps, we do talk about all sorts of relationship, and I see that we are running out of time soon. So I've always heard that like a spouse can sue somebody else that they think broke up their marriage. So basically, I guess infidelity is a not a sin, the legal term.
Adultery? Is that what
Yeah, adultery can be punished by law. So how come in the society that we live in, we hear a lot of times when marriages or relationships break up, it's most of the time there's some kind of infidelity involved. How come those people don't ever go to jail? Like, is it that serious? Why do they say it's a law when they're not going to enforce it?
So Georgia and most other states no longer have the ability to say, you broke up my marriage, therefore I'm coming after you in a lawsuit. Years ago, the law recognized those kinds of things. Nowadays, you're not moving anywhere with that kind of a claim. So I wouldn't be the least bit concerned about that. If you are one of the people involved in the relationship and you happen to be the reason why their existing marriage gets broken up, you're not going to be on the hook for the other spouse coming after you saying, you broke up my committed marriage.
But
I wish we could enforce that.
I mean, I know we say all the time, like people, not we, but people who are on the other end of the breakup, they want somebody to blame. So they usually just say, this person broke up my marriage. In your line of work, I'm sure you've seen like a million cases of those. Like, what is your opinion on this person broke up my marriage?
So right now, I do not have audio on either one of you. We faded out for a bit. And I'm not able to hear you.
Okay. Well, we can hear you. So
maybe you should come. Can you hear us now? No? Here, let me put it in the chat. Oops.
Okay.
Ladies, if you can hear me, I cannot hear you right
we
now.
Hear
as soon as
you.
the audio comes back up.
Okay. Can you hear us now? No, still? No?
No, I sent him a message.
Okay. Well, I don't, unless he pays attention. I don't usually pay attention to the private chat. I'm sure he's going to come back.
Okay.
But yeah, it's always been a big question of mine with that whole thing. Like, oh, this person broke up my marriage. They stole my husband. They stole my wife. And I'm like, well, I guess they weren't yours if they were able to steal it. from the get-go.
And also, like, what happened to the partner that you had, your spouse? What made them run, what was going on in your marriage that made them go a different direction? You know what I mean? So,
Right. Can you hear us now?
Perfectly.
Thank
okay,
you.
good.
So I don't know if you were able to hear my question before it got cut off.
I was not.
Repeat it.
Okay. So I was saying with a lot of people in
Going to
a
ask,
lot of marriages,
you were going to ask me who does my hair.
was that? We can't hear you, Chris. I think
It's
it froze.
Can you hear me okay?
Okay, now we hear you.
I think you were going to ask me who does my hair. It's a very exclusive salon over in Beaufort area.
Okay.
Salon.
Oh,
In Tennessee.
so you go to the fancy places. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Yes, I have been doing Chris's hair since some of his babies were in diapers, and now they are lawyers as well, and it makes me feel so old.
Wow.
But I love it. I appreciate the support, and yes, we're here.
I'm
He's been,
What was your other real question?
yes. So I was just asking, with adultery. Oh no, that's not. I did ask that question before, right? And he answered. So, in your opinion, see, now I lost my train of thought. In your opinion, why oh yes, the people that say this person broke up my marriage and all of that. What was the question, Sky?
You don't have to worry about that person being able to sue you. Not under Georgia law anymore. And I don't know of any other states that would allow somebody in that situation to sue you. The main impact that we have in what we would call an adulterous relationship, and you're having relations with somebody other than your spouse, we're looking at alimony. If the adulterous relationship was the cause for the breakup, then the person committing adultery is going to be barred from receiving alimony.
Oh,
Other than that, infidelity really has very little impact on a divorce. You don't get some monetary amount for each time that your spouse happened to have an adulterous relationship. It's not like you say, oh, well, it happened 100 times and I'm going to get $1,000 for each time that it happened. No, it doesn't work that way at all. Furthermore, let's say that somebody did allege, hey, you have been involved in this adulterous relationship, but the two of you stayed together. And then you happen to get into an argument a week later, and you file for divorce. The court's going to look at that adulterous relationship as having been forgiven. It has to be the cause of the breakup of the.
okay. That's good to know. For the married people out there. No, I'm not pushing anybody to do anything. So, so I know a lot of people are against prenups. Like just recently, I am talking to a client of mine, young person who's in love, and I can see marriage in the future for that couple. So I asked him, I said, hey, have you considered a prenup? And he's like, oh no, no, we're not gonna do that. I said, but why not? And basically he was saying, well, first of all, she would never agree to that. Second of all, I don't feel like we need it. I said, well, you don't know the future. You don't know what's going to happen. Wouldn't it be nice for you guys to agree while you are cordial, while you are happy with each other, while you're in a good space, for you to be able to agree on how to fight when a fight comes up, on how to go about these things that are going to be a headache later on. So you don't have to worry about that part because you're going to go through the emotional part of a breakup. So you definitely don't want to deal with the legal part of it. But he was, yeah.
I could answer that from the non-legal perspective. I think the reason why people don't want to do it is because it's kind of doomsday. It's kind of creating a doomsday clause. Like, we're supposed to be in love forever and nothing is supposed to happen to this, and it's all good and it's all happy and it's all everything. But, you know, if we create a document that states that if and when we break up, this and this is going to happen, we're kind of like not believing in the relationship. So that's my non-legal professional opinion.
So,
Hear me.
yes.
When you were asked, you said something along the lines of, why wouldn't you do this while you're in a good place?
Mm-hmm.
And screen froze up on me at that point. What was the rest of your question?
Yes. So basically, he was just totally against it. And so I was just asking, is that something that you typically recommend to your clients? And do you encourage them? Do you push them in that direction when you have people who are getting married, whether they're young or not?
I do encourage.
I always encourage. I'm
I
gonna
encourage it because when I become a millionaire-ess, you know what I'm saying? You ain't getting none of this. You know what I'm saying? It's all about, yeah.
It's
That's
not
what I
even
feel.
just about, I don't know. I feel like it should not be just the financial aspect of it.
That's what it's mostly about. I mean, what else are we talking about?
Well, so I'm gonna take myself for
Property
example.
is financial. What
No,
else?
no. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not just financial or property or material things. It's also the emotional aspect of it because I personally feel like I was held hostage in a divorce proceeding that was never ending just because the other party was not ready to let go. And I feel like there should be prenup stuff or agreements on your prenup too.
Like, if someone is really not trying to do this no more, you got to sign these papers immediately. In fact,
Exactly.
consider the prenup, the pre-sign.
So
The
yes,
prenup is the pre-signing. Okay, you pre-signed to do this divorce papers. This is it. Here it is. You don't want to sign it, and I want to get out of here.
No, I was just saying that a prenup shouldn't be just financials or property. It should be regarding the emotional aspect of the breakup as well, the divorce, to let the other party go, even when you're mad and emotional about what's happening. There should be some clause in the prenup that says you cannot hold these proceedings for more than 3 months, especially when you say you don't want it anymore. So that's just my take on it. It's
I just think, honestly, I just think people just need to stop getting married. And yeah, no, it don't make no sense to me. It's just
oh
like,
my God.
it doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't work. And I just feel like people should be in love with whoever they want to be in love with, and they should hang with whoever they want to be with, and they should do what they want to do. And if they need to create some sort of documentation to protect themselves or wills or what have you, do all of the necessary paperwork. But I just think the institution of marriage is flawed. And I just find that people stay involved in miserable situations. I mean, the fact that poor guy, his internet connection is not working.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I just feel like I love now don't not invite me to a good wedding. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll come to your wedding bearing gifts. You know what I'm saying? Because I came for the fun.
I love a party.
I'm here for the party, but I also think that the reason why people get married is, I think, flawed right now. I just think that, I've had conversations with friends about why do you want to get married? And the reason why women want to get married is because they want to be financially protected. It goes back to the money, right? But now
Right.
you have a society where women have the ability to create whatever abundance that she wants. So now, if she's able to be a multimillionaires or even 100,000 heiress or whatever she has, and so is he, then you really can't look at it in the aspect of husband and wife anymore. Those roles are now, because a husband is supposed to be a provider, protector, provisioner. But if she can provide, right, what is he doing? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's not
It's
just
not the same.
it's not just the financial. It's not just because a woman wants to be financially provided for that she's married. A lot of times it's the title, it's the status that it affords her, because a lot of places they look at women less than if you're not married. I mean, if you're 30, 35 and not married, never been married, no children, what's wrong with you? So it's
Yeah, and
usually
the status
a
thing,
stigma.
the status thing I get, but I really feel like, okay, there is a status thing. Oh, I need to be married. But I think the bigger part of it is, especially women, I'm familiar with friends, they want the whole soft life movement. They don't want to work anymore. They want to go back to 1955 and be a stay-at-home and cook and do the little housekeeping, and they want the man to be out there sweating on the street and building the houses and all that stuff. That's the life that a lot of women are going for, and that's fine. I just think it's kind of unrealistic in these modern times when, and I don't even want to sound like the biggest feminist, what have you. I'm just saying the reality shows. I mean, 50 years ago, a woman couldn't have her own bank account. That's when I was born. So a woman could get her own bank account. She could buy her own house. She could do a lot of things without him. So what now is the purpose of having a partner? What is the purpose? It should really be companionship, love, making children, having children, what have you, raising children. But do you really need to be married legally?
Right.
So
That headache part, honestly,
I
is
think our attorney friend has not been able to get his connection together.
right.
But, I still think that he's trying though.
Yes, yes.
He is trying to get that connection connecting.
Your
So
computer is not liking you tonight at all. Or your internet, should I say.
but that's what I came here to say.
Can you hear us, Chris?
No.
No. What about, okay. We have a couple of Maggie said, thank you for affirming what I thought. So it's
Now,
disheartening. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That exposure is a focus when legally targeting parents in polyamorous relationships more than they do in monogamous relationships. Well, I think Chris said it didn't really matter the configuration. It was more like what you're exposing your children to. So we have
I think
somebody.
it's much more. I think it's much more. What are you exposing them to? Not what kind of relationship are you in. I
Right.
think that most of our judges really are not concerned with what goes on in your house behind your closed doors. I think they're
Right.
much more concerned. Are you doing something in the presence of the children that's inappropriate?
Correct. We have one more thing. What about when someone passes and the legal ramifications? I'm
Well, if
guessing
you're not married to them, and they die
He
intestate
gets nothing.
without nothing. And
Nothing.
if you are
nada.
spouse,
Unless you're in their will. Is that basically what you're saying? Unless you're in their will.
That's it.
Get your wills done.
You can have a living will, right? You can have a will like while you're alive, right?
Yes.
So a living will is a non-binding guide, informs the person that is making your medical decisions in the event that you are unable, and it says this is how I wish for my body to be treated, but it does
Okay.
not cover financial issues. The
Okay.
living will covers those
Body.
healthcare issues.
Healthcare. Okay. Now,
You want
in that
financial
living will, could you put that I want A, B, C, and D to come into the hospital room while I'm in there?
You can, but then
Ooh,
that depends
we gotta. That was a good one.
on,
But
it also depends on the hospital. The hospital may very
ooh,
well say, "Hey, we're taking the spouse. We're taking immediate family, and you don't have anything, despite the fact that you've been living with this person for 4 years, that says that you are part of their immediate family."
we have an LLC though.
Good luck with that. Now, here's
Okay.
what I would really like to come.
But yeah, so my last question was truly gonna be like, how do you encourage your clients to put together a prenup before they get married, or can you sway them in that direction? What do you think? Like, I know probably as a legal person you're not gonna go one way or another, but if I were your daughter getting married, like, would you encourage me to get a prenup?
Not necessarily. I think most of that depends on what kind of assets do you have coming into the relationship, regardless whether or not you have a prenup. If it's a premarital asset, that's yours. What happens is a lot of times when people get married, they commingle. That's when it gets messy. So prenups are going to be generally much more appropriate when you're talking married people that really have some serious assets, and they don't want to lose any of that if it happens to be commingled during the marriage.
So, in other words, you're saying if it's not materialistic things, the prenup really is not even worthy? Like, can we put
No,
some
it's about money.
No, I'm
emotional clause in there?
No, it's about money.
saying, yeah, it's about money.
Boom, all day.
It's
That's
very
all it is.
unnecessary.
I knew that.
Most young people don't have 2 pennies to rub together.
Scratch and sniff.
True. But so if when you're dealing with older couples, people that are established, do you
Right.
try to persuade them or even advise to get a prenup?
Ask. If they ask, I consider that enough of a personal matter where I'm not going to segue in the middle of our talk about why they were getting a DUI. Hey, at the same time here, have you considered doing a prenup? I'm not going to volunteer the information. That's one of those things that if I'm asked about it, I'm happy to be of assistance. But no, I'm not trying to sell it. I'm not trying to say, hey, I'd really like my practice here doing a lot more of these prenups. Have you considered doing something?
You could have a special on prenups.
If I were you, I would actually not even advise on the prenup because it's like, well, I think the divorce will be a little bit more profitable. So I'm gonna get the divorce.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We're running into a situation where I say April is prenup month.
Yeah. You can get a free prenup with your ticket when you pay a ticket for your DUI.
So all right, it is 10 o'clock. Well, it's time to end. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on tonight. I truly appreciate it. I know it is a late night and a busy person like you. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and inform our audience about the legalities with non-monogamous unions and the law. So thank you again for doing this. And all you guys, you can go to www.bigdoglaw.com when you get a DUI, if you need a prenup, if you get in trouble, if somebody's bothering you, actually. It's kind of like the big brother that comes and punches the person for you. So just make sure you have Chris's information. Go onto his website. You will be able to find his phone number. Yeah, he's gotten me in trouble a lot of times because, again, I stay in trouble because
Gotten you
I'm the
out of
polypimp.
trouble. Out of trouble.
I am trouble. I am the
Wow.
polypimp. So, thank you again, Chris. Thank you guys for being here. Last word.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Sky, it was a pleasure meeting you. And I would always tell folks that may be listening out here, as far as legal advice goes, give me a call, email me, whatever. I either do it or I know someone that does. There are some areas of law that are very, very specialized.
Resources.
Right. And I have no problems at all. If you're calling me and you're not in need of my services, but I can refer you to someone else, I'm happy to do so. So don't hesitate to contact me.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Heard of Big Dog Law on the radio. See, you are popular, Chris. And so I need a living will and a prenup. Yes, LA
Yes.
body massage. Yes, you do. Don't forget to share the video with your friends who may benefit from this information. And we will see you in 2 weeks. And this is what we will be talking about next week. Love Gone Wrong, a night of hilarious bad date stories. So if you have one, come on through the next time in 2 weeks and we will have some fun. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Peace.